on between the servant Dasa and the owners of the bungalow. Paragraph 2 continues, and the sentence is very short but very meaningful. He persisted. The meaning of persisted means continue in an opinion or course of an action in spite of difficulty or opposition. He means here Dasa. When, as I said, that there is only a single person, Dasa, he is fighting against these people, worldly fighting. And when we say he persisted, means he is not ready to accept their blames, as they were saying that Dasa is not taking a proper care of the garden and therefore such dreadful things are coming in. So let us move on. And as he said that he persisted, means that he was not ready to accept all these blames. He thinks that only because of the absence of a grass cutter, he is not able to take proper care of the garden. Then he said, they begin to speculate. The meaning of the word speculate is form a theory or conjecture, means a guess about a subject without firm evidence. They began to speculate how much it would cost to buy a grass cutter. This sentence is as such not that, I can say that it is not that eye-opening sentence, but it is interesting. How and why? They began to speculate. They means the owners and the neighbors. Suddenly they began to speculate, means they started anticipating and guessing what they are thinking about, how much it could cost to buy a grass cutter. Suddenly they have taken a different direction. Suddenly there is a big turn. Till now they were blaming Dasa. Till now they were worried that the snake has entered into the garden and it is still not found. They have warned also Dasa that if it is not found, he will be dismissed and outside the bungalow, so on and so forth. But now suddenly they are thinking, they are speculating the price about of a new grass cutter. It is again, it will not be an exaggeration to say this part of a story as one more comic element. A neighbor declared that you could not think of buying any article made of iron till after the war. One more point to take a notice of. Here he says that you cannot think of buying any article made of iron. And why we cannot think? Till after the war. So according to him, since the war is going on and the weapons used in a war are generally made of iron, and therefore the price of iron is on sky, means is on rise, and therefore you cannot think of buying any article. And naturally grass cutter is made of iron and therefore naturally it is going to be costly, and therefore the neighbor says that you cannot think of buying a grass cutter. Again, all these discussions are not that important, are not so important as to think that why people are thinking suddenly about all these things. They have we can say that they have kept aside the point of a snake. They have kept aside a point of Dasa's carelessness. And since Dasa just said that he has no grass cutter, suddenly the people have started thinking about the price, so on and so forth. Let us move on. Let us have a new line and the new scene. What happens? He chanted banalities of wartime price. The second son of the house asserted that he could get anything he wanted and controlled prices. As I said, that all these words, like they chanted banalities of war times, means whatever the wartime high price and other disadvantages of war, people started discussing about these all things, banalities. This is called banalities. And the second son of the house asserted that he could get anything he wanted at controlled prices. Means now they are thinking that I can get this thing at this particular price, so on and so forth. Look at the shift. So here what we are supposed to look at, here what we are supposed to be focused about, here what we are supposed to pay our attention to, here this is the thing which we are supposed to pay our attention to. The thing that the people, how they are diverted, how they are discussing the other things, keeping snack aside. This is, of course, we can say a comic element of the story. The neighbor became eloquent on black market. A heated debate followed. The rest watched in apathy. The meaning of apathy is lack of interest, enthusiasm, and concern. The neighbor became eloquent. Eloquent means fluent or persuasive in speaking. So gradually and slowly the discussion went on. People kept on discussing about the high price, wartime, new grass cutter, iron price, so on and so forth. And the discussion, kept happening. And other people, they watched in apathy, means they had not that much interest in all this discussion. At this point, a college boy of the house. Now the story takes another turn. Now a new character enters, and the new character is a college boy. What he says, and look at the word butted in, that means to knock against. Now when this college boy enters, he suddenly shares one information. What he shares? He said, into double inverted comma, there is a dialogue spoken by this college boy, and the dialogue is, I read in an American paper that 30,000 people die of snake bite every year. Here the double inverted comma is over. Mother threw up her arms in horror and arraigned Dasa. Arraigned means to accuse, means to blame. As I said that in this particular part of the story, there are two things to know and there are two things to understand. Of course, these two things are comic elements. First comic element, as I said, that people started talking about their own capabilities of buying things at reasonable price even at wartime, and the war is going on, so on and so forth. Now suddenly they are not accusing Dasa. Now suddenly they have completely forgotten about the snake having entered into the compound, so on and so forth. And second important thing to know is that a new character has entered. That new character is college boy, and when he comes, he first of all shares an information, and that information is that 30,000 people, they are dying of snake bite every year. And we do not know that how and why, what is the reason behind keeping this particular shift in the story. But yes, of course, R.K. Narayan and his technique is deliberate. Means whatever he writes, whatever the turns he takes in his stories, whatever the dialogues he makes his characters speak, all are deliberate and all are intentional. Not a single word in a dialogue is useless and meaningless. So as we can see in this particular part of the story, that a boy, he shares an information, and soon after hearing this information, a mother, she is very afraid of, and soon after this being afraid of this information, she again blames on Dasa, and she says, let us have a look of the next PPT. Next slide please. The boy elaborated the statistics, and elaborated means to explain in detail with examples. So now that boy gives an examples and he elaborated the things, means he explains the things in detail. Look at his dialogue. I have worked it out, 83 a day. When he says that 30,000 people are dying of snake bite every year. So he has come to the conclusion, and his conclusion is that 83 people die a day. That means every 20 minutes someone is dying of cobra bite. As we have been talking here, one person has lost his life somewhere. Double inverted comma is over. So as I was telling you, that the second important point about the entry of this college boy and the information he shares, no doubt it is very important and interesting information, but this information gives another jerk, another push to the story, and suddenly people again start blaming Dasa about the entry of a cobra. And look at the information, 83 people they die. And very interesting point, he says that as we have been talking here, one person has lost his life somewhere. Means the time duration when the discussion was going on about the number of people dying because of cobra bite, here he says that the time when we are discussing all these things, it is possible that somewhere someone has lost his life. Soon after this line, mother nearly screamed. The meaning of screamed is to shout loudly. So mother nearly screamed on hearing it. The compound looked sinister. I would like to explain the last line in detail. See, two things to understand. First is mother nearly screamed on hearing it. As we know that in this story, R.K. Narayan includes so many things together. First is comic element. Second is some, superstition. And the character of mother, as she is old one, mother of 4 sons, and she is religious, no doubt, but with being religious, she is superstitious also. Means when she screamed, means she is fearful also. So characterization is very important. That is one of the most important features of R.K. Narayan stories, that he is the master of characterization. Look at each and every character of Dasa, character of a cyclist, suddenly enters and disappears. In the beginning of the story, he appears. Look at the irony. Had that cyclist not been there, story could have not got its start. It is that unknown cyclist who begins the story, because it is he who declares that the snake has entered into the bungalow, and it is because of him all people they are coming out, and then they are waking the Dasa, so on and so forth. Story begins. And here when we are discussing that the character of that college boy, it is that college boy who makes that lady, the mother, fearful, afraid of, comparatively the earlier one. So now this is how the characterization or the technique of characterization works. Second thing that I was telling you, that the compound looked sinister. The meaning of sinister is very interesting. Threatening, or we can say dangerous, or sinister is something that you dislike. You do not like to be, or you do not like to see something, or you do not like to be somewhere. That is called sinister. Generally garden and the compound, they are beautiful to be and to see. But once we know that there is a snake, or once we know there is something dangerous in that garden, suddenly the same garden turns sinister. So this is a human psychology. No doubt R.K. Narayan includes human psychology in each and every of his stories. In another story like an astrologer day, so in that story also R.K. Narayan was using this psychology. In each and every works of R.K. Narayan, for example Swami and Friends, so in that novel also R.K. Narayan has at length discussed the psychology, child psychology and human psychology. Anyway, let us come back to the point. I was just telling you that how this last words, that the garden was then looking sinister. So the reason of that garden, and means I want to say that the reason of that sinisterness of the garden is that now people know that they are not safe. Now they know that anytime the snake can come out and it can bite anyone. And into addition to this point, that boy has rendered the ghee, and that rendering ghee was that he declared that every 20 minutes someone is dying of cobra bite. So all these things make this case more, dangerous and more thinkable. So this is the story, and this is how R.K. Narayan has rendered the comic element, seriousness, superstitious, neighbors and their involvement, boy and his information, and mother and her behavior. Mostly majority characters, they remain silent. Nobody speaks much, but they act more. This is the characteristics of this story. Let us move on. Paragraph number 2 continues. Now what happens? The boys brought in bamboo sticks and placed one into the hands of servant also. Here the word brought is a past participle of a verb to bring. Please be aware of that. He kept desultorily. The word desultorily means, randomly, without any order, anywhere, anytime. That is called desultorily. Poking. The verb to poke means to dig, to find out something, or to punch. This is the meaning of to poke. I read that last line once again. He kept desultorily poking it into the foliage. The simple meaning of foliage is plants. The other word is bush. That is also meant as plants and shrub. Now as we know that the boys, they have come out with bamboo sticks naturally to find the snake. But how they are finding, what they do, that is described in this paragraph, and we will explain and we will understand this paragraph in detail. So he kept desultorily poking it into the foliage with a cynical air. This is something, unconvincing. Here the word cynical, I have not given it into the glossary, but I will give you the meaning of cynical. Cynical is something that is full of satire. So now readers are questioned, or readers are confused when they read the story. This is again, I would add one more point here before explaining the word in detail, that this is one more characteristic of R.K. Narayan, that sometimes he confuses his readers. Sometimes he pulls his readers